The message from the Karth Dominion had been short and cold. Stay forgotten or be erased again. For weeks after that, the galaxy waited in silence. News channels across different systems spoke of humanity's return, of their meeting with the Union Council, of the mysterious threat from the Karth. Some thought the Karth were bluffing. Others whispered that humanity's rebirth had already disturbed the balance of peace. On New Earth, Commander Arya Solon stood inside the command hall, watching dozens of star maps projected in the air. Each map showed distant systems, trade routes, colonies, and mining worlds, and one of them was blinking red. Kepler Outpost, said Wren, her advisor. The last message came 2 hours ago. Then silence. Arya's eyes narrowed slightly. Any nearby Union patrols? None within range. The closest fleet is 3 days away. She turned toward her communications officer. Open a direct link to Kepler. The room filled with static. Then a faint, broken signal appeared. The voice of a frightened operator. This is Kepler. Unknown ships, they... The signal ended abruptly. Arya's hands clenched, but her voice stayed calm. Prepare the rescue fleet. Launch immediately. Within minutes, the human fleet resolve was ready. Dozens of sleek ships rose from New Earth's surface, glowing softly against the dawn. Their engines left trails of blue light as they cut through the sky, entering hyperspace. The mission was simple. Investigate Kepler Outpost, protect survivors, and avoid unnecessary conflict. But as the ships jumped through the void, every crew member felt it. A quiet tension that ran deep. They all knew this might be humanity's first test in front of the galaxy. When they arrived at Kepler, the scene before them was silent and haunting. The small mining colony floated among asteroids, its main habitat dark and lifeless. Fragments of metal drifted nearby. Scanning, said Lieutenant Mara, the sensor officer. No life signs detected. Wait. Small emergency pods near the surface. We're picking up faint human signals. Lock onto them, Arya ordered. Rescue ships moved quickly, pulling survivors aboard. Most were shaken but alive. The colony had been attacked suddenly, not destroyed completely but left as a warning. One of the miners, pale and trembling, told Arya what had happened. They came out of nowhere. Black ships, no markings. They took our systems offline with some kind of energy burst. Then they sent a message. The myth ends here. Then they left. Arya looked out at the stars. They wanted us to see this, she said softly. They want to show the galaxy that humanity can be broken again. She turned to her officers. Send a full report to the Union Council and activate the defense code on all colonies. If this was a warning, we will answer it. Not with fear, but with strength. On GalacticPrime, the Union Council received the report within hours. The hall filled with uneasy voices. Councillor Vareth frowned. The Karth Dominion has broken every peace rule we have. This cannot stand. Another delegate spoke sharply. We cannot risk a war. Humanity's return already makes the galaxy unstable. Chairwoman Sarai Dallin looked thoughtful. Perhaps they fear what humans represent. Not power, but change. The Karth have ruled through fear for centuries. Humanity gives others hope. Hope could be dangerous to those who controlled by fear. Meanwhile, hidden eyes were watching. Across the galaxy, smaller civilizations, once silent and oppressed, saw what was happening and began to whisper. The humans are being tested. If they stand against the Karth, maybe we can too. Back on New Earth, Arya gathered her command team. The room was quiet as she spoke. They think we are weak, she said. They think we are myths, stories that can be erased again. But they do not know us. They do not know that humans never stop standing. Her voice was calm but filled with power. We do not seek battle, but if they come for us, we will show the galaxy what it means to be human. Wren smiled slightly. And what does that mean, Commander? She looked at the old Earth flag behind her. It means we never give up. 3 days later, the Karth Dominion made its move. A fleet of warships entered the Orion Expanse, heading straight for a small human communications array. The Union Council tried to stop them with diplomacy, but the Karth ignored every message. Their leader, Lord Kareth, wanted to send a clear message, that humanity's light would be crushed before it could spread. But humanity had learned from its past. The human fleet resolve, under Arya's command, had already anticipated such a move. Hidden behind asteroid fields, human ships waited silently, their energy signatures masked by old Earth-designed camouflage systems. When the Karth ships arrived, they detected nothing, only empty space. Confident, they moved closer to the communication hub. Then suddenly the stars around them shimmered. Human ships appeared like ghosts, surrounding the Karth fleet. "Commander," said Lieutenant Mara, excitement in her voice. "We have them locked." Arya nodded calmly. "Hold fire. Send transmission." On every channel a human voice echoed clearly. "To the ships of the Karth Dominion, you entered our space uninvited. You attacked our people. This is your only warning. Withdraw now." For a moment there was silence. Then the Karth Admiral replied with cold laughter. "You are myths playing at soldiers. You cannot stand against us." Arya's eyes hardened. "We will see." The Karth ships opened fire first. Beams of red light cut through space. But they hit nothing. Human ships moved faster than expected, darting between asteroid shadows using the environment as cover. "Activate pulse field," Arya ordered. Human engineers triggered an experimental system, a burst of energy that distorted the Karth sensors. Their targeting systems went blind. "Now," Arya said, human ships struck, not to destroy, but to disable. They aimed for engines, weapons, and communications. In less than an hour, the mighty Karth fleet hung helpless in space, unable to fight back. No lives were lost on either side. The battle ended not with destruction, but with silence. Arya sent one final transmission. "We do not start wars, but we finish them." Then she ordered all human ships to withdraw, leaving the Karth vessels drifting safely toward rescue. Across the galaxy, the event spread like wildfire. Every news network repeated the same headline: "Human fleet disables Karth armada without losses." It was a victory of intelligence, not aggression. A victory that showed the galaxy that humans were not just strong, they were clever, disciplined, and merciful. The phrase Arya had spoken became famous overnight. Entire worlds began repeating it. "We do not start wars, but we finish them." The galaxy trembled, not from fear but from realization. Humanity was real, and humanity remembered. In the days that followed, something began to change. Smaller civilizations that had long suffered, under the Karth, began to send secret messages to New Earth. They offered support, information, and even friendship. One message simply said, "You gave us hope." In the Union Council, Chairwoman Sarai Dahlin stood before the delegates. "We cannot deny what we have seen. Humanity's actions were defensive, controlled, and honorable. Perhaps we should learn from them." Some delegates nodded. Others still feared the old legends, stories of humans who once reshaped the stars with their will. But it was too late for silence. The galaxy had remembered. On New Earth, Arya stood alone in the observation dome, watching the stars. Ren joined her quietly. "Commander," he said, "the galaxy is watching us now." "I know," she replied softly, "and we will show them who we are, not through power, but through unity." Ren looked thoughtful. "Still, the Karth will not stop easily. You embarrassed them." Arya smiled faintly. "Then let them come again. We will be ready." She placed her hand on the glass, looking at the stars that once forgot her people. "We were myths," she whispered. "Now we are memories, and soon we will be the future." Far away, deep within the Karth Dominion, Lord Kareth stared at reports of his fleet's defeat. His expression was cold, unreadable. "Prepare the full armada," he said quietly. "If the humans want the galaxy to remember them, then let them remember war." And somewhere, beyond both Karth and Union borders, quiet civilizations began painting old symbols on their ships. the blue and white of Earth's ancient flag, because for the first time in thousands of years, they believed that hope could fight back. The galaxy trembled, not because humanity returned to conquer, but because humanity had reminded everyone what courage looked like. The galaxy had awakened. Stories of humanity's return spread across star systems like constellations lighting the night sky. Some watched in awe, some feared them, and some, like the Karth Dominion, prepared for battle. For Commander Arya Solon and the people of New Earth, it was not a war for power, but a war for memory. To the humans, every system, every star, and every life mattered. Humanity had survived countless challenges before, and now they faced a challenge greater than any in their history. The Karth had gathered their largest fleet in centuries, hundreds of ships bristling with weapons, engines blazing and shields stronger than anything the galaxy had seen. Their intent was clear: to crush the Terran Union before it could inspire others to rise. But humanity was ready. From hidden hangars across New Earth, fleets moved silently, their energy signatures masked by centuries-old stealth systems. Ships glimmered like shadows in the void, appearing only when they needed to. Arya stood on the observation deck of the Endeavor Command Center, looking at the holographic map of the approaching Karth fleet. Ren approached her quietly. "They have more ships than we do, Commander." Arya nodded. "Quantity does not win battles. Strategy, creativity, and teamwork do. That is what humans have always relied on." The human crews trained relentlessly, practicing maneuvers not taught in manuals but invented on the spot. Every pilot, every engineer, and every strategist became part of a single mind, a living organism of ingenuity. The first encounter happened in the Orion Expanse, a region filled with asteroids and gravitational anomalies. The Karth fleet, confident and proud, moved straight into human territory. "Commander," said Lieutenant Mara, pointing at the display, "they are ignoring our signals. They believe we will flee." Arya smiled faintly. "Good, let them believe it. They will learn." Human ships moved like whispers between asteroids. Smaller fighters darted through the shadows, distracting Karth sensors, while larger vessels positioned themselves to take advantage of the environment. Gravitational slingshots, solar flares, and asteroid debris became weapons of precision. The Karth, trained to fight in open space, found themselves disoriented. Their communications faltered. Their formations broke. For the first time in centuries, an enemy they considered weaker challenged them in ways they could not predict. On board the Resolute, one of humanity's flagship vessels, Captain Jonas Hale watched the Karth flagship drifting among asteroids. "They are strong," he admitted to his crew. "But they do not understand us. They do not see the world as we do." "Orders, Captain?" asked his first officer. Jonas smiled. "We will use what they ignore. The debris field, the gravitational currents. Every asteroid is our ally. We strike when they least expect it." The first wave of human fighters moved in silence. They did not fire immediately. Instead, they created illusions of movement, drawing the Karth fleet into tighter spaces. Then, with perfect timing, human ships disabled weapons and engines using non-lethal EMP pulses. One by one, the mighty Karth vessels were immobilized, not destroyed but rendered harmless. For the galaxy watching, it was astonishing. A smaller, supposedly weaker species had outsmarted the most feared empire, but humans did not stop at strategy alone. They showed mercy. Any Karth crew who surrendered was treated with respect. Humanity had a reputation not only for courage but for honor. Arya sent a calm message across the void. "We do not seek to destroy. We fight to protect, to remind the galaxy of what courage and unity mean. You may leave unharmed if you choose peace." The Karth leaders were confused. They had expected annihilation, but humanity offered a choice. Some ships withdrew immediately, unable to comprehend the combination of intelligence and mercy, and elsewhere other systems began to notice. Small civilizations, once oppressed or ignored, sent signals of support. Hidden fleets aligned with humanity's approach, ready to defend their homes. The galaxy had begun to remember humanity not as a myth, but as a symbol. Days later, a larger confrontation occurred near the Varlon Nebula. The Karth had learned from their first encounter and tried to ambush a human convoy carrying supplies to distant colonies. Arya gathered her commanders in the planning room. "The Karth expect us to fight head-on. We will not. We will use the nebula." "Sirens," said Lieutenant Mara. The nebula distorts sensors. Ships can disappear completely if handled correctly. Arya nodded. Good, that is our advantage. Prepare the fleet. The human convoy moved slowly into the nebula, lights dimmed, engines silent. Karth scouts could not find them. When the Karth fleet approached, human ships appeared suddenly from multiple directions, coordinating in a complex dance that the Karth could not follow. The human ships disabled key weapons and communications again. But this time the maneuver was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species saw the human ingenuity firsthand. Some sent congratulations. Some whispered in fear. Every star system now knew humanity was clever, unpredictable, and united. During a brief lull, Arya met with her council of officers. The Karth will try again, she said. They will not give up easily. But humanity has inspired hope, Ren noted. Many systems are reaching out to us secretly. Arya smiled softly. That is why we fight. Not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy of courage. Every life we protect, every choice we make, strengthens that memory, and so, humanity prepared for the next wave, always defending, always clever, always merciful. In the Union Council, Chairwoman Sarai Dalen observed these events with growing respect. They fight differently, she said to her aides. They do not rely on force alone. They rely on strategy, creativity, and compassion. The galaxy could learn much from them. Other delegates nodded. We must consider alliances, one said. Humanity is not a threat, but a guide for change. Yet in the shadows, the Karth Dominion seethed. Lord Kareth declared, They are clever, yes, but cleverness cannot stop fire. Prepare the full armada. Humanity will not escape the truth of war. Back on New Earth, Arya stood before her fleet once more. Her voice echoed across the hangars and through every communications link. Humanity fights not for glory, not for conquest, but for life, for hope, and for the memory of what it means to be free. Every pilot, every engineer, every soldier here fights for more than survival. We fight so the galaxy remembers the meaning of courage, the meaning of unity. Stand ready. The galaxy watches, and we will show them what humanity truly is. The crowd of pilots and crew cheered. Children watched from observation decks. Entire families, generations born on New Earth, felt the excitement in their hearts. It was not fear they felt. It was pride. And in the dark reaches beyond the battle zones, quiet civilizations began taking action. Small fleets moved to help human colonies, secretly coordinating with New Earth. Intelligence and communication networks, hidden for centuries, were activated. If humans can fight with hope and skill, one message read, then so can we. Perhaps the galaxy is not beyond saving. The myth of humanity had inspired not only awe but courage. As night fell on New Earth, Arya walked alone to the observation deck. Stars glittered above her, endless and bright. She reflected on the battles, the strategy, and the mercy her people had shown. We do not seek war, she whispered. But when the galaxy forgets courage, we remind it. Ren joined her quietly. Commander, they will come again. The Karth will not let this stand, she nodded. Then we will meet them, not with fear, but with our hearts, our minds, and our unity. That is what humans have always done. And somewhere far away, the Karth Dominion prepared for the next encounter, unaware that every move against humanity only strengthened the legend. In every corner of the galaxy, stories began to spread, of humans who outsmarted entire fleets, of mercy shown to enemies, of courage and unity that inspired hope. The galaxy began to remember humanity, not as myths of the past, but as living proof that intelligence, creativity, and compassion could stand against fear. The war for memory had begun, and humanity was ready. The stars watched, the galaxy waited, and humanity smiled, quietly knowing that their legend had returned stronger than ever. The stars above the Sol system glimmered faintly, reflecting centuries of stories whispered about a species long thought to be lost. Humanity's home, now silent for thousands of years, had become a symbol, a myth, a dream. But myths, as the galaxy was about to learn, do not die. Commander Arya Solon stood on the deck of the Endeavor Command Center, overlooking the massive fleet assembled in orbit around New Earth. Ships of every size gleamed under the sun, engines humming softly. Allied fleets from smaller civilizations had joined humanity, a secret network of civilizations inspired by courage and unity. The Karth Dominion, enraged and determined, had mobilized their largest armada in centuries. Hundreds of warships, shields blazing and weapons primed, approached the Sol system. They had underestimated humans once, and they would not make the same mistake again. But humanity had prepared. Every ship, every fleet, every pilot knew their role. The galaxy had watched, and this would be the moment it would truly remember. Arya turned to her officers, calm and steady. This is not just a battle for survival. It is a battle for memory, for hope, for the galaxy to remember what courage looks like. She paused, letting her words sink in. We fight not to conquer, but to show the truth of humanity. Every ship here, every life is a message. The myth of humanity is real. And it will not fade. Her crew, inspired and focused, nodded in unison. The energy in the room was electric but disciplined, excitement tempered by intelligence and unity. The Karth fleet entered the system, confident and ready. Their leader, Lord Kareth, watched the human formation on his view screen. They are bold, he muttered, but boldness alone cannot defeat strength. He gave the order. Energy beams lit up space, weapons aimed at the human lines. But Arya had already anticipated their strategy. Human ships moved with speed and precision, weaving between asteroids, solar flares, and gravitational anomalies. Karth sensors faltered. Their targeting systems struggled. Every calculated strike by the Karth was countered not with brute force, but with ingenuity. On board the flagship Resolute, Captain Jonas Hale coordinated the maneuvers. Prepare the solar sling, he said. We will use the sun's gravity to boost our fighters into their blind spots. Human pilots executed the maneuver perfectly. The Karth fleet, expecting predictable paths, could not track them. Small human fighter squadrons disabled engines, weapons, and communications on larger Karth ships with precise, non-lethal strikes. The galaxy, watching through sensors across allied worlds, gasped in amazement. The humans had turned the battlefield into a demonstration of cleverness, skill, and discipline. The battle raged, not with destruction, but with precision and ingenuity. Humanity fought to disable, to protect, and to preserve life, a stark contrast to the Karth, who relied on fear and sheer force. Arya sent a calm, clear message across every communication channel. Karth Dominion, you came to crush myths. You found reality. Withdraw and you will be unharmed. Stay, and you will learn that humans protect not only themselves, but all who seek freedom. For the first time, some Karth ships hesitated. The humans were not predictable. They were not cruel. They were something far older, far stronger and determined, united and merciful. Elsewhere, small civilizations inspired by humanity's courage began taking action. Secret fleets emerged, assisting human forces by targeting Karth supply lines and freeing trapped colonies. Hidden planets opened safe passages. The galaxy was no longer silent, and it had begun to remember hope. Arya watched the movements on the holographic map. Every system that joins us, every life we protect, strengthens this moment. The galaxy must see the truth. Ren stood beside her. It is beautiful, he said quietly. Not the battle itself, but the way it unites everyone. Arya smiled faintly. That is our strength. Intelligence, courage, mercy. That is what humanity represents. Hours passed. The Karth fleet, massive and proud, began to falter. Human ingenuity had turned numbers into a weakness. Every ship they moved into the asteroid fields was neutralized or trapped. Every attempt to strike human colonies was countered before harm could be done. And throughout the battle, not a single human life was lost unnecessarily. Every Karth crew that surrendered was treated with respect, given food, care, and a safe passage to leave. The galaxy watched in awe. This was not just war. It was a demonstration of what humanity could be: clever, compassionate, and united. Then came the decisive moment. The Karth flagship, massive and heavily shielded, attempted a direct strike on New Earth's surface. Human intelligence had predicted this. Using gravitational slingshots, solar radiation manipulation, and precise coordinated strikes, a small human fighter squadron disabled the flagship's engines. Without firing a single destructive shot at civilians, they forced the mighty Karth leader into surrender. A clear transmission went out across the system. This is Commander Arya Solon of the United Human Colonies. The Karth Dominion has chosen to surrender. Let this be the example of mercy, courage, and intelligence. Let the galaxy remember what humanity truly is. Across billions of viewers, beings from thousands of civilizations held their breath. Many wept, many cheered. Every species, from the smallest trader to the largest empire, saw the humans not as a myth but as living legend. In the aftermath, humanity helped rebuild affected worlds. The Karth fleet was escorted safely to a neutral system. Colonies received supplies, engineers repaired damages, and communications were restored. Humanity had won not only the battle, but the hearts of countless beings across the galaxy. At the Union High Council, Chairwoman Sarai Dalen addressed the assembly. Humanity has returned not as conquerors, but as teachers. They remind us of courage, unity, and hope. Today we have witnessed not just a species, but the meaning of true strength. Delegates nodded, some in awe, some in quiet shame at having doubted the myth. On New Earth, Commander Arya Solon stood on the observation deck at sunset. Ships gleamed in orbit, reflecting golden light. Children watched the skies, dreaming of the stars. Ren joined her quietly. "Commander, the galaxy will never forget us again." Arya nodded. "No, and it should not. We fought not for power, but to show what humans can do when they act together. The galaxy now knows courage, hope, and mercy exist in ways it has not seen for thousands of years." She looked at the stars and whispered softly, "We were myths. Now we are memories, and from today the galaxy will remember us as the future." Far away in the Karth Dominion, Lord Kareth watched the news reports of his fleet's surrender. His pride had been challenged, and he knew it. "They are clever, yes," he admitted, "and united, perhaps. Perhaps we underestimated them." But even he could not deny the truth. Humanity had returned. The galaxy would never again forget the Terran species, one not as myths, not as stories, but as living proof of courage, ingenuity, and unity. And so the stars whispered the story across light years. The humans returned from myth. They fought not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy of hope. They outsmarted the greatest fleets, defended the weakest colonies, and showed mercy even to their enemies. The galaxy learned a simple truth. Myths do not vanish. They wait, quietly, patiently, until it is time to remind the universe of what is possible. Humanity had returned, and this time the galaxy would never forget again. The legend spread not through violence, but through courage, unity, and compassion. Across thousands of worlds, children grew up knowing the story of humans who had once been forgotten, and then returned, clever, kind, and unstoppable in spirit. And somewhere above New Earth, Commander Arya Solon looked out at the stars. The galaxy remembered us, and now we will help it dream again. The galaxy had long since moved on without humans. Countless civilizations had risen, expanded, and built empires that reached across the stars. They spoke of their histories with pride, their ancestors with honor, and their victories with joy. But when the subject of humans came up, it was only in whispers. Old tales told in dim libraries or to curious children before sleep. To most, humans were myths, clever stories from a forgotten time. Some said they were the first explorers of the stars. Others claimed they were a warning, a race that burned too bright and vanished into the dark. But no one truly believed they ever existed, except for Lurak. Lurak was a historian from the planet Terran-Za, a quiet world known for its libraries carved into glass mountains and its scholars who valued truth above all else. He was small by his species' standards, gray-skinned with 4 slender fingers and calm golden eyes that rarely missed detail. While others studied the rise of empires or the beauty of nebulae, Lurak studied myths. For years he searched old star records, listened to ancient transmissions, and gathered fragments of stories about the lost species called humans. The more he learned, the more curious he became. There were strange similarities in every version of the myth. A world of blue and green, a people who loved both peace and challenge, and a final message before their disappearance. "We will return when the stars need us again." Many called his work pointless. Humans never existed, the other scholars said. They were only symbols, ideas of bravery and hope, not real beings. But Lurak couldn't ignore the feeling that something was missing in the galaxy's history, a gap too large to be explained by myth. One evening, while examining an old trade archive from the Outer Rim, he found a strange entry. It was a star map, badly corrupted and incomplete, but it contained a set of coordinates that did not match any known system. Beside the data was a short note written in an extinct language. After hours of decoding, Lurak read the message: "Beacon 9 active. Earth memory sealed. Guardian protocol engaged. The word Earth stopped him cold. He had seen it before and always connected to the myths. His hands trembled slightly as he stared at the coordinates glowing on the screen. Could this be real? Could something of humans still exist? He gathered his notes and went straight to the Council of Worlds, the governing body of the galaxy. There, in the grand chamber filled with hundreds of alien species, Lurok presented his findings. "My lords and scholars," he said in a steady voice, "I believe I have found evidence that the species known as humans may not be a myth. A beacon of their design might still be active on a world near the galactic rim." The chamber fell silent for a moment, then filled with laughter. A large reptilian counselor struck the table with his claw. "Humans, again, Lurok. Your obsession grows tiresome. What will you say next, that they built the stars?" Another voice added mockingly, "Perhaps he will tell us that humans still live and will come back to guide us all." The chamber echoed with cruel amusement. But Lurok did not lower his head. He simply bowed slightly and said, "Then allow me to prove it. Approve an expedition. If I am wrong, I will accept the council's judgment." The laughter faded into uneasy murmurs. The High Speaker, an elder of crystalline form, leaned forward. "You are asking us to send ships beyond charted space based on myths. Why should we waste resources on fantasies?" "Because," Lurok replied softly, "every myth begins with truth. We owe it to history to find it." The High Speaker studied him for a long moment. Finally, the elder said, "Very well. One expedition, small, quiet, and unofficial. You will command it, Historian Lurok. If you find nothing, this subject will never again be spoken of before the council." Lurok bowed. "Understood." Weeks later, the small fleet of 3 exploration vessels departed from Terran-Ja. They carried a few dozen scientists, engineers, and explorers, all curious, all skeptical. As the ships entered the silent reaches of the galactic rim, the stars grew thin and the dark deepened. The lead ship, Pathfinder 1, was Lurok's command. He spent every waking hour comparing charts, studying sensor readings, and listening to static signals in the endless dark. Days turned to weeks. Nothing appeared. Some crew members began to lose faith. "Maybe the council was right," said Rena, his second officer. "There is nothing out here but silence." Lurok's golden eyes flickered toward her. "Silence does not mean emptiness. Keep scanning." On the 33rd day, something finally changed. At the edge of a dying star system, Pathfinder 1's sensors picked up a faint energy pulse. The signal repeated every 11 minutes, weak but steady like a heartbeat in the void. "It's old," said Rena, her tone shifting to excitement. "But it's not natural. Source appears to be buried on the 3rd planet." Lurok felt his chest tighten. "Prepare landing teams." The fleet descended to the planet, which was covered in ash-colored dust and sharp winds. Once, perhaps, it had oceans and skies, but now it was lifeless. Still, beneath its cracked surface, their instruments pointed to something metallic. Hours of digging revealed a structure half buried in rock. A massive, circular machine glowing faintly blue. Across its surface, worn symbols showed the image of a blue and green world surrounded by stars. Rena brushed off the dust. "It looks like a map?" Lurok touched the symbol gently. "No, it looks like a memory." The team activated the beacon. A bright light flashed, and then a projection appeared in the air above them. "A human face," the explorers gasped. The being had 2 eyes, brown hair, and a calm expression. His voice, though old and faded, carried strength and purpose. "This is Commander Elias Ward, Terran Defense Network. If you are receiving this message, then the Guardians have fallen silent and humanity has entered deep shelter. We leave behind this beacon as a promise. The children of Earth are not gone. The stars remember us. And one day, we will return." The message ended with a string of coordinates that stretched far beyond known space. The silence that followed felt heavier than the planet's gravity. One of the scientists whispered, "It's real." They were real. Rena looked at Lurok with wide eyes. "What do we do now?" Lurok stared at the coordinates still shining in the air. His voice was soft but firm. "We go there." When they returned to orbit, Lurok sent a transmission to the council. The moment the data reached Terran-Ja, the galaxy changed forever. The council's chambers were silent as the human's image played on the great screen. No one spoke. No one laughed. The High Speaker finally said, "Impossible. The myths were true." But before the council could decide what to do, something else happened. From the outer edge of the system, a transmission cut across all frequencies. strong, clear, and not from any of their ships. Unidentified vessels detected in restricted Terran space. Identify yourselves or be detained. The council members froze. On the live feed, the explorers looked out of their ship windows. Out of the dark, silver shapes emerged. Ships, sleek and old but still alive, their engines glowing with steady light. Rena whispered, "Those are human ships." Lurok's heart raced. For thousands of years, the galaxy had spoken of humans only in myths. Now the myths were answering. The dark of space had never felt so alive. The explorers aboard Pathfinder 1 watched as dozens of unknown ships surrounded them. They were made of silver metal, smooth and seamless, shaped for both beauty and power. Blue lights glowed along their sides like veins of energy. Every sensor on the alien ships was aimed directly at the small exploration fleet. Lurok stood on the command deck, his golden eyes wide. His voice was calm, but his heart raced. "Keep the comms open. Try to answer their signal." Rena tapped on her console. "Their language and its ancient Terran standard. The translation system is working, but it's slow." Before she could finish, the main screen flickered and a face appeared. Human. A woman in a dark blue uniform, her short hair neat, her gaze steady and cold as iron. "This is Commander Arya Holt of the Terran Remnant," she said. "You are trespassing in restricted Terran space. Identify yourselves immediately." For a long moment, no one on Pathfinder 1 spoke. Then Lurok stepped forward. "I am Historian Lurok of Terran Za. We come in peace. We found one of your beacons, Beacon 9. We seek only knowledge, not conflict." Arya's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "You found Beacon 9? "Yes," Lurok said. "We thought humanity was gone. Your message said you would return." The human commander nodded slowly. "You have traveled far. Stand by for escort." The transmission ended. Moments later, two of the human ships moved closer, positioning themselves beside Pathfinder 1. Their engines glowed brighter as they guided the alien fleet deeper into the dark sector. No one spoke for several minutes. Only the low hum of the ship's power core filled the silence. Rena whispered, "We're flying with humans. The myths are real." Lurok looked out the window, watching the elegant ships glide through space. Each movement seemed perfectly controlled, quiet strength without pride. He felt something strange stir inside him, admiration mixed with fear. After several hours of travel, the stars around them faded, replaced by a massive shadow. At first, it looked like a dark moon. Then lights began to appear, hundreds, then thousands. A city in space. It was enormous. A circular station with towers rising like mountains, surrounded by rings of smaller platforms and ships. Rena gasped. How could anyone build something this big in silence? Lurok replied softly, by waiting and never giving up. As they approached, a line of text appeared on the screen. Welcome to Bastion Prime, home of the Terran Remnant. When the fleet docked, a small delegation awaited them inside the docking bay. The humans wore simple uniforms marked with a white emblem, a blue and green world surrounded by stars. It was the same symbol that had appeared on the ancient beacon. Commander Arya Holt stepped forward to greet them. Her voice was calm but carried quiet authority. Welcome to Bastion Prime, please follow me. You are safe here. The explorers followed, their eyes wide with wonder. The station's corridors were clean and metallic but not cold. Glowing lights lined the walls and plants grew in small glass gardens. It was both ancient and advanced, like a civilization that had learned patience through hardship. Arya led them into a large hall filled with screens showing star maps, ship formations, and construction zones. Dozens of humans worked at consoles, coordinating fleets and analyzing data. Every person moved with focus, their expressions calm yet determined. Lurok whispered to Rena, They are rebuilding. Look, those are shipyards, Rena nodded. They never stopped preparing. For what, I wonder? Arya turned to face them. We have watched the galaxy for a long time. Many civilizations rose after we fell. Few ever looked for us. You are the first to find our beacons. Lurok took a step forward. The myths say humans were the first explorers of the stars. What happened to you? Arya was silent for a moment. Her eyes grew distant. Thousands of years ago, she began, humanity reached far across the galaxy. We built colonies, forged alliances, and shared our knowledge. But as we grew, others grew afraid. They believed humanity was too ambitious, too bold. Her voice softened. There was war. We fought not to conquer but to survive. In the end, our worlds were destroyed and the survivors went into hiding. The Terran remnant was formed, what little was left of us. Rena's voice trembled slightly. So you've been here all this time, waiting? Arya nodded. Waiting, rebuilding, remembering. We promised our ancestors that we would never disappear completely, that someday when the stars called again, humanity would rise. Lurok studied her carefully. And now we have found you. Yes, she said quietly. And that means the time of silence is ending. Later, Lurok and his team were given quarters within the station. From their rooms, they could see part of the shipyard, hundreds of Terran vessels under construction. Each ship bore a name etched on its hull: Courage, Endeavor, Hope, Liberty. Lurok couldn't sleep. He sat by the window watching engineers move like shadows among the ships. He felt the weight of history pressing down on him. All his life, people had told him humans were myths, symbols of courage and imagination. But now he had seen them, spoken with them, and walked through their living city. They were real, and they were preparing for something. He opened his datapad and began recording his observations. Day 41, contact confirmed with human survivors. They call themselves the Terran Remnant. Technology advanced far beyond known standards. Cultural focus, resilience, and unity. Emotional state of people, disciplined but hopeful. They speak little of the past and much of what is coming. He paused, then added, if the galaxy learns that humans still live, everything will change. The next morning, Arya invited Lurok to the Hall of Memory, a vast chamber filled with glowing pillars. Each pillar held a hologram, faces of men, women, and children from long ago. Names scrolled beneath each one. These are the fallen, Arya said softly. Every name here belongs to someone who gave their life for our survival. Lurok bowed his head respectfully. Your people suffered greatly, Arya nodded. We did. But we learned something through that suffering. That strength is not in numbers or power, but in purpose. Every generation of humans here knows that we exist because others believed in the promise of tomorrow. She looked at Lurok. Tell me, historian, why did you search for us? Lurok hesitated, then said honestly, because the galaxy forgot how to hope. Every civilization lives only for itself. The myths of humanity spoke of courage, unity, and dreams. I wanted to believe such a species truly existed. Arya smiled faintly. Then you came for the right reason. But know this, our return will not bring comfort to all. Many powers still fear what we once were. When they learn that we are alive, they will come. Lurok felt a chill. And what will you do then? Arya's voice was steady. What humans have always done. Stand. Later, Lurok's fleet was permitted to send a limited transmission back to the Council of Worlds. He reported that humanity had been found, alive, organized, and rebuilding. The Council received the message with disbelief and alarm. Some called it impossible, others demanded proof. Within days, fleets from the Council began mobilizing toward the Rim. Meanwhile, on Bastion Prime, preparations accelerated. The once quiet shipyards now glowed brighter each night. New ships launched daily, sleek and fast, bearing the emblem of Earth. Human engineers worked alongside others, small groups of aliens who had secretly joined the Remnant long ago. Rena approached Lurok one evening, watching the stars outside. Do you think they're preparing for war? She asked quietly. Lurok shook his head. No, not war, preparation. They know the galaxy will not welcome them easily. Rena sighed. If the Council sends its fleets, it could end in disaster. Perhaps, Lurok said. But perhaps this is what the myths meant. Not that humans would return to rule, but to remind us what it means to believe in something greater than fear. Days later, Arya called Lurok to the command deck. The main screen displayed a new set of coordinates, far beyond Bastion Prime. This, she said, is where we began. Earth, our true home. We are ready to return. Lurok stared at the image of the distant blue and green world. So the myths were right, he whispered. You will return. Arya looked out at the stars. No, she said gently. We already have.